Coming up, I discuss everything I did to my supercharged Fiero to get it drag race ready, including going over some of the NHRA required rules, proper drag racing etiquette, and the modifications to the car. Please thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll answer any questions in the comments. Later this year, I'm intending on drag racing the Fiero. All this advice is just to get you past the technical inspection at the racetrack so that you're able to race your car. So I went ahead and got a copy of the 2023 NHRA rulebook. I'm only going to go over the sportsman class and the general rules in this video. The NHRA rules aren't really written for a Fiero, so I'll just discuss what I actually decided to do. I'm predicting my car will be borderline an 11.5 second quarter mile, but I'm not going to do everything required for under 1150, such as a roll bar. As required by the rules, and front end alignment is a must. It's a good idea to get a rear alignment too. On the drag strip, ideally you want 0 degrees of camber. However, if you're going to be streeting this car, just go with the factory specifications. Then I installed some metal valve stems in my wheels. Discount Tire did this for about 60 bucks. I'll try to link one in the description that would work for you. The rules also require that you remove all snap-on hubcaps. So I removed the center hubcap. It is a requirement to have a certain amount of thread engagement on each stud. And the best way to tell that is with open lug nuts. So go ahead and take your caps off of your lug nuts, or you could opt to install some shorter lug nuts for better visibility. Link in the description. If you are supercharged and are burning methanol of any form, then you have to have metal valve covers. I bought some of these because I might do methanol injection in the future. I also bought a matching valve cover cap. Links in the description. It is not necessary in my class to run a fire extinguisher, but if you do, it does have to be securely mounted. So I bought this fire extinguisher mount. I'm going to rivet this mount to the carpet or some sort of part of the chassis. Also required by the rules is a clearly labeled ignition system. I use these Excel spark plug wire labels. Link in the description. According to the rules, you may not have any cracks in any glass or windshield or anything, so I'm replacing this sail panel even though it's not glass. I have been questioned about it before. If you do bring a laptop and tuning software, technically that's supposed to be securely mounted. Battery must be securely mounted. Fuel lines may not be passing the supercharger belt. I had to reroute my fuel line setup in order to do this. Decals are only permitted on rear quarter windows or the rear window. A Snell or SFI rated helmet is required for all vehicles. Technically in the rules, as I read it, I think you need a fire jacket for E85. Here's some quick reference charts in the NHRA rulebook. These summarize what class and speed require what equipment. So let's discuss some non-rules required modifications to the car. I'm also in the process of adding this hood scoop onto the front of the hood. Pressure builds up underneath the front end of a Fiero if you're going over about 115 miles an hour. That will cause the pop-up headlight covers to come up. You could lose some traction on the front tires. Putting this vent on will help vent that pressure out of the front of the car and keep the nose of the car on the ground. Also installed an air-to-fuel ratio gauge with an O2 sensor in the car in order to help me with tuning on the track. This goes hand in hand with HP tuners. Links in the description. I'm also hoping to get an intercooler installed before the races. I installed this battery quick disconnect. This thing is really handy. Links in the description. I'm also considering buying some sort of drag race weather station and a logbook in order to predict the performance of the car under certain weather conditions. Next up, I went with some Mickey Thompson ET Street SS drag radials. These are street approved, so I'll be able to run to the track with them. If I had to do it again, I might get me some ET Street R drag radials with the size of 255/60 R15s, as it'll still squeeze on the Fiero rear rim. Try storing these in room temperature setting and deflated, out of the sunlight. Not contacting the ground at all, but if it has to, do not stack them. I decided to get some coilovers. This will help with the adjustability of the rear height of the car. This can actually help you preload the suspension a little bit. Here's how to assemble them. First, put this base ring on that the spring sits on, then slip 2 O-rings over the body of the shock. Then you put the coilover threaded part on in the direction shown. Next goes the spring, and then the bump stop, and then the top cap included in the kit with the ring pointed down. It should slide straight into the spring. Then this other plate from the original shock, then the studded plate from the shock tower, and the top cap from the shock tower. Of course, the nut. Links to these parts in the description. Check out my strut installation video for more details. So got some adjustable front end racing shocks. The idea is you want the front of the car to come up and stay up instead of bounce or do a wheelie, which would be wasting energy that could be transferred to forward momentum, and ensuring that the weight is transferred to the rear tires. These things are 60-40, 80-20, and 90-10 adjustable, meaning that 90% of the shock force is required to go down and 10% is required to go up. They do have to be taken out of the car every time in order to adjust them. Link in the description. Now let's go over some tips and some etiquette to help you out at the drag race track. Have a buddy videotape the rear corner of your car. That way you can see all of your suspension reacting at one time in order to make adjustments. You are allowed one camera. You can put this in the interior of your car so that you can see which way you turn the steering wheel when you launch. A good idea is to put a piece of white tape on the steering wheel to see which direction it's going and how much, so that later on you can adjust the suspension. If the car is drifting to one side, this can be due to the car weighing different amounts or the torque being applied differently on each wheel. A posi traction differential can help with this, which I have. However, this car does not weigh an even amount from left to right. It might be a good idea to scale your car on all 4 tires to see your weight distribution. If the car sways to one direction, you want to make that same side of the car heavier or the opposite side lighter. If you have one, it may be an option to disconnect your sway bar to technically make one side of the car a little bit lighter than the other side of the car. That way, hopefully, both tires get an equal amount of traction. You might be able to use the coilovers to adjust the car's height and shift the center of gravity of your car to have a more equal weight distribution on the rear tires. It might be a good idea to chalk mark the tire on the wheel to make sure that the tire is not spinning on the wheel. I probably don't have enough power to worry about that. On these Mickey Thompsons, you'll typically want to lower the tire pressure to between 22 and 18 psi, starting out higher initially. If you can't get any traction, then start going down in either half or 1 psi increments. Rotate the rears often, but don't ever rotate the front tires. The website indicates that the SS tires do not need to be burned out, but if you call them, they'd say that it wouldn't hurt and it would probably improve performance. These SS tires do not need very many rotations, maybe 5 to 10 in order to be activated. Don't burn out on dry pavement, instead pull through the water box and do a slight burnout there. While you're burning out, let off your brakes slightly in order to get out of the water box until you have a slight amount of blue smoke coming out of each tire in equal amounts. Do not stop in the water box because it will cool the tires. Make sure your car is straight as you pull up to the starting line. When you're staging, pass the first yellow light or light box and then wait for your opponent. Do not ever back up. Then once your opponent reaches his first, and then wait for the opponent to pull up to his second. Then you can go to your second. You can try testing your reaction time using this website. I'm going to include in the link in the description. Well, that's all for this video. I hope these quick tips could be useful to you at the track. Please thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll answer any questions in the comments.